Good morning or good afternoon. Yeah, now it's afternoon. Just turned afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Ooh, it is a little. It's warmer out today, but it's not as warm as I thought it was. I should have put more. I should have put a jacket on. I only got a sweatshirt. I'm gonna wait for some people to join us in the chat room and live. I don't know. We'll wait up. Thank God I got a connection right now because why is this shit? Hey, McGee. Taking a piss by the tree. The reptilian McGee. The reptilian Irishman. Killian McGee. Better tap the tip when you pee. It's Killian McGee. Mahatma's on site. Malik. What's up, brother? I'm glad we got a connection because, like, the last couple times I've been trying to do a live stream, my service has been really messed up, and it's like really important information that I wanted to share. And you know that's usually how it works. When you want to relay a message, usually we get blocked. When it's really something new and intriguing and serious to, and you know, in my opinion, like, people don't look at this like as I have any answers. I think some people be able to get certain visions of things, but it doesn't mean we have the answer. So it's for you to find the information intriguing enough to do your own research and your own meditation on it and your own soul searching on it, right? In my opinion, certain information just can't be made up. Even our creativity, theories that come to people, art that comes to people, energy, all that stuff, it's coming from somewhere, right? It's coming from your higher dimensional self, right? It's coming from your 5D self all the way down, 4D, 3D, it gets to us, right? But right now, there's a war between dimensions. 4D and 3D are pulling at each other. 4D is absorbing 3D. And I really think that everything is connected, right? Everything throughout the whole universe is connected. Within all the galaxies, we're all connected. And even though Earth is an insignificant little piece of it all, what happens affects the whole planetary system, right? The whole galaxy. And the viral data realm that we've created, that we're stuck in, if you want to say, not created, but stuck in, I think it's brought a lot of attention to what's transpiring on our planet. And when we relay information like this, when people who get certain telepathic visions and these premonition type visions, I don't think it should be taken lightly, but I don't think it should be taken as complete, you know, like set in stone. But I think that we're getting them on a collective basis for some sort of reason, right? And I do think that no matter what people believe out there right now, most people can sense that the world is going through some sort of transformation, right? So we can at least agree probably on that. But for the last several years, I would say since 2017, my sort of intuition, the way I would get premonitions in life, has changed. And I'm not going to go through a whole life story on here. Most people know who I am, certain things that I've been through. And most people know that trauma, a lot of times, does activate certain sleeping neurons and maybe DNA within us. And this is how sometimes people trigger parts of their system to receive more of that that higher holographic dimensional knowledge and frequency that we have, the higher frequencies. I think that sometimes we've been completely shut off to it at birth deliberately, I think, and certain people are born under certain conditions that might give them more of a chance of receiving more of a higher frequency of knowledge and data, right? But unfortunately, the way things go right now is that it's like usually people have to get triggered through like a near-death experience or some sort of trauma. I mean, it could be done regularly, of course, right? Anything, it could be accomplished, but it seems to be that there's even more behind people's near-death experiences, like what even caused the event to happen. What even caused someone to get into the accident where they almost died, and they had an accident, a surgery, and maybe it just wasn't all random. That certain things are guided, right, to trigger certain people at certain specific times, time-coded events. And our free will either takes us there, and our free will takes us to that event in certain ways. And depending on our free will depends on what's going to transpire within that event, I think, right? That we have free will to a certain degree. Like maybe there's certain things that are just bound to happen within our timeline. And depending on our free will depends on which timeline we're going to end up on. Right? So our free will depends on what possibility in all these different timelines. But the ultimate event that's supposed to happen is going to take place. But there's all these different timelines that can that can transpire depending on what choices you make up into that event. But we are supposed to go through certain things in life, and I think it's very interesting when you start thinking about that. But I used to get premonitions as a child. I think we all get this, but it's up to you to try to remember and tap into that frequency of who you are, right? But as a child, it wasn't big premonitions. It was premonitions about what was going to happen to me in the next few weeks, or somebody I loved within the next time, and I never was able to pinpoint time. But most times when I would get these premonitions, it would be something that was going to transpire within shortly. But I've had some things with some friends and other people in my family where I felt like they were going to die, and I thought it was going to happen like soon, like I better do something about it. I better go find the person. And then actually that event didn't happen for years later. But they did die, and they did die the way that I saw, right? In my friend James, I had visions of him drowning in 2002 when he was my roommate. That didn't happen to him till 2018. All right, so I don't know how to pinpoint time correctly when it comes to those. Sometimes when it comes to me, and I think, but starting in 2017, right, to get to my point, 2017, I started getting premonitions on a galactic level, right? Hi, good morning. And I started getting premonitions and visions about what was going to transpire in the universe, within our planet, on a bigger level. Nothing to do with me specifically or my loved ones or people around me, but like on a collective level. And it started like when I started seeing things awakening, right? And I knew the eclipse was coming in 2017, and I started in 2015, 16, I started getting visions on a bigger level. And in 2017, I started getting like premonitions about what would happen, like things that I would transpire, certain things that I would see, and then it would come to fruition, or I would see the fallout from it and understand, wow, that was from what I was talking about, right? And that just happened recently again. I mean, I've been talking about it, if you follow my work, man, right before the 2017 eclipse, I was getting visions of like an insectoid sort of like face, but like octopus tentacle arm, huge monster in the sky, right? And there was like some dimensional waves coming where dimensions were getting pulled together with the tentacles, and it was connected to everybody's in the back of everybody's head, right? Everybody was connected to this through their friggin' through the cord right in their back of their heads. And it was like the dimensions were getting pulled together. I called it a dimension wave. And I was talking about dimension waves before they even came out with the D-Wave computer. So the D-Wave quantum computer. So I was getting this visions of like a dimensional shift where one dimension is pulling the other into each other and they're converging. And it was this huge monster, right? And then other people started talking about this as well. This is how I met Chris Geo. This is how I ended up on Beyond, with my radio show on Truth Frequency Radio in 2017. Because I was talking about this vision I was happening on the Freeman Fly show and other places that I was on. And then other people, like during the eclipse, saw this. And when I went outside just prior to the eclipse, and during the eclipse I was taking pictures of different places in the sky, of the clouds, right? I wasn't trying to look directly into the eclipse. So I was taking, and I literally saw as well exactly what I saw weeks and weeks and months prior. So after that, I started seeing things awaken on our planet. And you realize not long after the Great American Eclipse did Oumuamua come by, right? It was only like 2 months later or something like that that it came closest to Earth. So I've been having internet problems the last couple nights, but I'm gonna be more. I don't want to reveal it all on here, on YouTube. Most of it's gonna be just for my Patreon, my Patreon. So I could give you guys a brief breakdown of what I saw, and you can do, whatever you want with the information and believe it. But I truly believe that if you look into my last few months of work, even what I've been talking about, I was talking about how directly over Texas, I said even downtown Austin, Texas, that I was seeing a crystalline structure. Now, people that don't understand what I'm talking about, just random people that might be seeing this video, like, what is he talking about? Well, you can even ask the most intelligent and well-respected scientists in the world, and they'll tell you it's possible what I'm talking about. So I'm not going to argue with those type of people or flat earthers or anything like that, but it's quite possible that, like, any way you want to look at it, there's higher frequencies that can exist in the same space as we can. Right? The same exact space that we can, but at a higher harmonic frequency, right? But they're taking up the same exact space as we do, right? They've gone through a higher harmonic ascension, though, in that same space. So there can be something that exists anywhere on our coordinates on Earth that has a higher structure in that same spot that we can't see with our normal vision. The light spectrum, the way the light bends and everything, that it's at a higher frequency, right? So there's ancient life forms that were on this planet. Some of them were even crystal and metal combined, gold and crystal, different types of metals and crystals combined. And they have ascended to a higher level, and they are at specific higher harmonic frequencies. And there's an acceleration, a quantum leap of technology happening on our planet, and it's actually related to something that came by us that is helping awaken these crystalline structures. And they're emitting different codes or programs, if you want to say, of light, but they're different colored light associated with different frequencies, and each light affects everything a different way. And that's the best way I could describe it for like us laymen that don't have all the scientific wording, right? And there I did a remote viewing of Austin, Texas, because I felt like, wow, everybody's going to this area. Let me see what comes to me. And I saw this 3-sided holographic crystalline structure directly over friggin' downtown Austin, Texas. And I was talking about it for the last few months. I went on Leak Project. I went on various shows talking about it. My own show. Then within a few weeks of me talking about it, all of a sudden Texas is having these winter storms. And at the same time, I also started talking about Uri Geller, right? For some reason, Uri Geller and some of the work that Uri Geller did before he was famous for bending spoons, he was actually talking about space intelligence and cosmic intelligence and UFOs, but he didn't like the reaction that it was getting worldwide, so he wanted to stick with bending spoons, and then he got humiliated even more bending spoons. But you can't force a guy to do things on live TV. It doesn't work out right. So Johnny Carson's show didn't work out for good for him, but he still sort of saved face somehow, and he's still alive. I've talked to him through email, but I started talking about Uri Geller, right? So and all of a sudden now that they had all these winter storms in that area, right? And they call it Winter Storm Uri, URI, just like Uri Geller, right? And not only that, but they're having these blackouts in the area, right? And the only spot that was really saved from those blackouts was downtown Austin, Texas, where I saw this crystalline structure. I mean, I think that's proof pretty much right there that there's something mysterious going on, especially with blackouts. There's cosmic impulses that happen. And a lot of time when there's communications with higher harmonic frequencies, blackouts happen. And this is known in the past, right? Yeah, Yuri's still living. He's in, it's spelled U-R-I. Uri. It's actually Uri. It's not Yuri, it's Uri. That's how it's pronounced. It's U-R-I. Uri Geller. Uri Geller. Yeah, he's Israeli, but he's still alive. Yeah, he was like, really young when he first came out. And it was Dr. Pulharich who first brought him to America and was doing experiments with him. And then I think he worked with like the CIA for some things, and SR, Stanford Research Institute, and all those places. But he had true abilities. I know he does. It's just that he didn't like he was kind of like a really outgoing guy. He wanted to make it famous, kind of, right? That was his goal. He kind of had like stupid goals at first. He was a young kid, and he wanted to be like a rock star and an actor, and everybody know his name and cheer for him, that kind of guy, right? So that's the way he wanted to use his abilities. And he didn't like it when Dr. Pulharich wrote the book. He has the books, all the books that they have out too. Dr. Pulharich wrote the book Uri. And in it he talks about the Council of Nine and a lot of space intelligences that are talking to Uri and different people that they've interviewed. Even after Uri left the situation, then Dr. Pulharich sort of went to Phyllis Schlelmer and Sir John Whitmore and a couple other people that he was working with. But Dr. Pulharich worked with all those most famous psychics. Peter Herkos, Rodrigo from Brazil, the psychic healer, psychic surgeon, all those people. But so let me get back, not get too off track what I was talking about. Things happen for a reason, right? And I don't think certain information can be, it's not just made up. It doesn't just come from somewhere, right? Data is information. We exist because of data. And I think that the reason why our universe expands is because data expands, knowledge expands. and we're part of that expansion, and we're part of that harmonic evolution. And right now we're in a lower viral system, and we're not on a harmonic evolution. We are stuck in a lower dimensional version of ourselves. We merged into the physical from something holographic, no doubt. And it's up to us to start listening to the call of God again, if you want to say the harmony of the spheres, and get back to that harmonic frequency, that higher frequency, right? So I do think that there's certain, you want to call them angels, space intelligences, whatever you want to call them, but there's good and bad out there, and there's certain things out there that is waiting for us on a collective level to be able to communicate and be able to hear the call of God and bring us back to the harmony. And we can, on a collective level, like a wave of consciousness, come over the planet and heal us, like a global DMT. I've always said this, and you know, I've had dreams, visions, all types of visions that has similar storyline, where these huge feline humanoid creatures come down in like a beam of light, and there was a blackout everywhere, like darkness everywhere, and there was a flash and a beam of light, and they came down in the flash, and that flash lit up everything that was dark, and in that flash you saw all these feline creatures, and things like a frequency was coming out of them that you can't even hear, but it was bringing certain people to a higher, and bringing people out of their bodies, like their souls out of their bodies. And it was, and other people, they had this sphere of light, and this spear of light, this like long spear of light, and they were just hacking down other people. It, you know, and I was the first time I had this dream like this, I actually was on a bus in the dream with other people, and we were stuck in the dark, like stranded somewhere, and it was blackout everywhere, buildings everywhere, and all of us on the bus were like, what's that up ahead? All of a sudden we saw like a light coming from the clouds, and all of a sudden a beam came down from the sky, and it made a flash around everything, around the bus, everything, and in that flash, in that split, it like lit up everything around for like a couple of seconds, like it was like a blue flash, right? And in that flash you saw them. All of a sudden there was thousands of these beings there, everywhere, and there was a frequency like coming out of them, like there was like a pulsating song coming out of them, and then some people, they were just cutting down with a spear of light. And you know, I talked about this a few months ago, but it was related to a blackout as well. And you could just say it's a dream. You can say whatever. You don't have, you know, you guys can thumbs down the video and say, you know, screw you, but certain things that I've been seeing, I mean, I don't think that stuff is coming from out of nowhere, and I do think that on a collective level I'm supposed to get it out there, and the right people, when they hear it, they'll hear it, because I was seeing these structures, these crystal structures, and they're over certain places on all over our planet. And at certain times, they're awakening for certain reasons, and they're emitting these light codes, these light programs. And I do think that's related to exactly what's been happening in Texas. And I talked about it right beforehand. And I'm about to drop some interesting information before I go too as well. That's going to be more discussed on my Patreon. But I was discussing Oumuamua, and I've been having information coming to me on a weekly basis about this, because I've been thinking about it a lot when I have a chance, and more has been coming to me. And for those that don't know some of the astronomy terms and terms that I'm going to say, you guys can look them up, white dwarf and equation, like that. If you guys are not familiar with those words, you can look them up real quick. I was shown that there was a planet, a whole group of races that is related to another planetary ascension. Like our planetary system, we go through a certain ascension process, right? We go through levels of change. other planetary systems do as well, and related to the Lyra constellation, and then I feel they moved to Sirius as well. And but there was a system that had two suns, and it's a binary system, right? And the smaller sun collapsed. And before I go there, actually, like from how I view things, ever since my near-death experience as a kid, pretty much since 1987, I've been researching about the stars and cosmology and everything, about the universe. And I think that's prepared me for certain visions that I'm going to get in the future. I think that's how things work in all of our lives. All right, and it prepares us for certain spiritual good and bad omens that we will be able to see and figure out, because we have them all around us at all times, all day long, every day. It's up for us to see them. All right, and I think it's it was sort of a preparation I did for the future. But our soul goes through stations. We go through certain places in the galaxy on our soul's path, and we go through certain places and certain stations, and all of these places are related to the path of souls of all species. All right, I think it's all related to what's in the stars. We're all connected to that. And I think there was a planetary system who had two suns, right? A binary system, and the smaller sun collapsed in on itself and transformed into what they call a white dwarf, right? Now when this happens, this is friggin' amazing, right? Because I could sense it, I could feel it, I could see it, and it's like a knowing that comes over you, right? So listen to this. Thank you so much, I'll get you guys in a minute, whoever donated. But when a smaller sun collapses, it collapses into what they call a white dwarf, right? So like that white dwarf is it's a transformation. It's not like they're collapsing and dying, right? It's a transformation. So that sun is collapsing into what they call a white dwarf, and that white dwarf energy, right? That transformation, that energy can be harnessed and channeled into the ascension process of species that are related to that system. And certain species, when they're at a certain harmonic frequency and level telepathically, they can literally telepathically channel that energy of that transformation to a white dwarf, or certain transformations that happen. They can channel and harness it and even imprint it in stone and comets and send it out to the universe as a probe to seed other worlds, to seed life, to continue their expansion and their knowledge and their conquest, right? And there was a species that there's many species, and they're related to the Lyra constellation. They're related to also the Sirius constellation, and they've been going on their soul station process in their own ascension, right? And when they went from Lyra constellation to somewhere within Sirius, there was some sort of collapse of a smaller sun into a white dwarf, and that energy was harnessed by them telepathically and was sent into stone, imprinted into stone. And I think Oumuamua is related to that. What's imprinted in that stone is the knowledge of transformations, and also this is how little big bangs take place in the universe. Like when quasars are formed, they're like little big bangs of creation. And I think that certain species, their whole consciousness, their whole existence is bathed and created within the quasar and extended within the quasars. And when something transforms from a sun into a white dwarf, like that harnessing, that channeling of that, and it's done telepathically, right? It's done through these different colors of frequency and light. And I think when Oumuamua passed Earth, and even though it was very far away, they send like acoustic radio waves or whatever it's called, and there's like light codes and programs that get sent our way. And I think when it passed in October 2017, it was awakening things on our grid. It's part of seeding our planet. This is related to what's transpiring even in Texas. This is what's awakening. This is what I saw, and it's kind of funny. Don't you think that's kind of coincidental, if that even exists, for me to be talking about that specific area of Austin, Texas, and now they're having these winter storms like they've never had before, and blackouts. And then the downtown Austin, Texas area is the only place that was kind of like saved from the blackout, the exact place where I said I saw this crystalline grid. Thank you, Raven. Thank you, everybody out there. Killian, no doubt, brother. Thank you so much. Hey, Susan. Hey, Emily. Good to see everybody in there today. So that's the best way I could describe what I'm seeing, you know. And I truly think that we need to look at everything different, and that even what I was talking about yesterday on YouTube, even though it was buffering and it got all pixelated and I couldn't really have a good video, it sucked. The Ugaritic translations I've been going through, right? I truly believe they're talking about the path of souls, you know, in a lot of those translations. Like when they say, I love the one part I was talking about in the video yesterday, like, I love the heifer in the pasture land, right? And all the stuff that surrounds it even pretty much even proves it even more what I was talking about. But I love the heifer in the pasture land. A heifer can also be a goddess, the cow, or a star, and the pasture land can be the Milky Way or the cosmos, right? So there's all different ways you can translate all of those writings that are related, I think, to the path of souls, because ultimately in life it's about the journey of your soul, right? And every Native American tribe, that they all have similar beliefs, and they talk about the same thing my Italian ancestry talks about. You know, if you look into the mystical European traditions, they'll talk about like the true star knowledge. Even Persians, all of them, they'll talk about how the soul journeys through the Milky Way, right? Even in Italy, it's where I got my daughter's name from. They called the Milky Way the path where the path of the souls come from, the river of Tana, right? It's the river of the stars. It's the path of the souls. And pretty much all Native American tribes, and it's on my Patreon if you guys want to go check it out. I posted about it a couple days ago, an in-depth article about it. But pretty much all Native American tribes talk about the journey through the Milky Way, and where there's a cross in the roads where this giant being stands, and sometimes they call that the star Cygnus, you know, where this giant raptor or giant bird stands at the crossroads, stands at the fork in the road where you're on your journey and judges your soul. And a lot of the Native American tribes, they call that judge the brain smasher, right? The soul smasher, the brain crusher, all similar names, because on your way, depending on how your soul is weighed, you're either sent back to Earth, you're sent back to Earth, or you're sent somewhere else, or you're taken out of existence by the friggin' brain smasher. So yeah, you're either sent back to Earth, sent to the Summerland, right, to the Milky Way, or you're friggin' blinked out of existence by the brain crusher, right? And Native American tribes talk about all of that. And I think I can relate to that. That's why I went into all of this information about near-death experiences my whole life. Because I do think my soul was being weighed at 9 years old. And you don't really have so much at 9 years old, right? That you could be really... But I was brought to this structure. It was like a crystal ankh where my arms and legs were out in it. And there was water. I was inside of water. And like I heard data coming over me while I was in there, like information about my life. I couldn't hear any specific sentence because it was going so fast, but I was pulling out little bits and pieces of my life, places I've been, this, that, right? It was talking about me, and I had to level myself out in the water like I was a bubble in the carpenter's level to wake up. Like I was being weighed, and I had to level myself out while all this water data was coming over me. And then when I did finally level out, I woke up on the operating table with my arms and legs out. And I couldn't figure out why I wasn't wet. I was like, why am I not wet? I was freaking out, And they were operating on my testicle at the time. And I had a concussion, like a head injury. So it was pretty bad, right? So it was coming to me like in blinking recollections afterwards too. Like the whole like minute or two before I woke up on the operating table, I remember being in that like in the carpenter's level, like almost like, but it was like a crystal structure, like a tube, almost like a tube, but like crystal, and in the shape of an ankh. And I know people could say, oh, you're just like sort of dreaming while you're unconscious and being operated on or whatever, right? But yeah, you could say that, I guess. But I attribute that to similar to what they're talking about in ancient Egyptian with Anubis, where they're literally weighing the heart and the feather of Ma'at, the harmonic frequency of evolution of the being of the species. You're right. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, everybody. Hold on, actually, let me go get my my battery pack in my car. Shit, I parked on the other side. Who's out there today? Let me see. It's hard for me to see in the sun right now. Let me say hi to everybody. Oh. Hey, there you guys are. Yeah, no matter what, you think you're alone, like where you go friggin' take a walk, and I still see like people that live right next to my dad's house, neighbors that I grew up with. Gotta see on my freaking walk. It's all good. So you guys got questions? Let me see. Yeah, I think they could be, as a collective level, we get weighed for sure, right? For sure. And I think that's why there's, even though we're an insignificant, like, sort of speck in the whole grand scheme of things, the way what's transpiring on our planet, the way the consciousness is happening on our planet and everything has brought down the whole system, right? So it's affecting the whole planetary ascension, harmonic ascension of the whole system. So it's affecting other dimensions. And that's why I think we have certain huge friggin' galactic space stations that can change our can change things on our planet. Like they're at certain places where they're beaming certain things to our planet that can change weather, that can change this, that can change that, can stop nuclear events, all that. My phone's about to die. I gotta get to my car. I have my battery pack in there. RE55, thank you. Really appreciate that. I mean, yeah, on a collective level, we could build such a powerful field. I mean, I was talking about it the other day. Like, look at raves and you know, at concert events in different places. There's both sorts of collective telepathic harmonic fields that are generated, right? Both dark and light. You have certain people that meet up there, right? They're not doing any drugs. They're having a good time, and between the same vibrations of the music and the same similar things that are on their minds and stuff, they're building a telepathic field around them that has a certain barrier to it as well. And the same thing on a darker level, where you have a group of kids and people that they're doing the same drugs, they're listening to the same music, dressing the same, their same thoughts in their mind. They're building up this like telepathic field of energy with them on the dance floor, you know. And as they're moving to the beat with each other, they're all like merging this and forming this huge telepathic harmonic field. Some of it with dark energy, some of it with, you know, positive energy. And you can even feel it when you walk away from, if you're a part of it. So you walk off the dance floor, you could feel yourself get sucked out of it. It's like you left the barrier of that field, right? Where time just slips away when you're in that field too, right? Yeah, no, yesterday it was because of the area I was in too. And I was trying to save some information, and finally I got some of it out today. Yeah, no, I've seen it. Trust me. I've seen people's face morphing in clubs too, where all of a sudden their face morphs into something really demonic for a second, and you're like, you have to double look, like, what the hell? You know, and yeah. But definitely, everybody check out, I got new products up every day. I just put phone tabs up. I have a phone tab package for copper tenter phone tabs, and crystal package that comes with it, 2 phone tabs and a rainbow moonstone piece that has all been charged at the Balance Rock. And I'm putting new bracelets up every day. I got some new thicker Ramu bracelets as well, and all new product every day, new crystals, everything. So these ruby kyanites and ruby fuchsites and all these new crystals, I mean, there's a limited amount and they're hard to get.